4, 3, 2, 1, go!
Ahead was a testing day for vehicles and tempers. An 810-kilometre hard slog to Tambo, including a 460-kilometre stretch between refuels. It'd be a day of constant mental calculations interrupted by dust, sand and rocks. The heat and constant vibration driving the brain into limbo. After 2 short competitive safari sections came the stage that would end the hopes of 17 cars and 18 bikes. 140 kilometres of car-breaking, soul-destroying wasteland. Fuel consumption was heavy, and for many the writing was on the wall early. Drive too hard and they'd be stranded without fuel. Scores of cars and bikes would reach the next fuel stop with just a teaspoonful to spare. Others wouldn't be so lucky. The sand proved a big advantage for Andrew Cowan. The sheer brute force of his turbocharged engine fought off the friction of the grasping track. Duncan was forced to watch the margin grow to 18 minutes. Behind him, the threat of the second rally-out car had temporarily passed. Masuka had taken a wrong turn and lost third place to long-time rally campaigner Wayne Bell in a Nissan Navara. A battered field of survivors limped into Tambo, many arriving after midnight. They'd been driving for 18 hours. Some would get no sleep before starting again in just a few hours. Alan Cunningham led the slashed field of 15 bikes out of the original 55. Another 17 cars had also expired, stranded in the middle of nowhere, broken down or out of fuel. More than 70 competitors had been knocked out at third distance.
How many bikes are still in?
I think there's only about 13 of us or something.
What was it, a massacre yesterday, was it?
Yeah, went very close to it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What was the main problem with the bike?
Well, dust. Dust was the problem, and then those of us that were still out there in the competitives at dark, the visibility was only about probably 6 feet at times. You're riding along with both feet out and waiting for something to run into you.
Many crews had worked all night to stay in the race to Darwin. Some hadn't slept for 30 hours or more, but fatigue had given way to blind obsession.
How long have you been working on it?
How long have I been working on it? Since 11 o'clock last night.
Have you?
Yeah.
Non-stop?
Non-stop. I haven't even had lunch yet. Never mind dinner. Oh, the whole bloody thing just fell apart, see? Both sides. Inserts popped out. Everything.
You're determined to get to Darwin?
Oh, mate. We'll be there by hook or by crook.
Day 4 was a 1,000-kilometre stretch from Tambo to Middleton, a long, hard haul through the heat and dust of a merciless wasteland. Tambo and Blackall were now several hundred kilometres behind. The safari had pushed west to the tiny town of Junda for a much-needed refuel. After 4 days grovelling in the dust and sweat without a shower, some tempers were beginning to fray. Scores of vehicles waiting to refuel from just one pump brought a long delay. Many teams were forced to wait 2 hours, time that would have been better spent sleeping at the overnight stop.
This section, this could be doing now, would be to cancel today and call it tomorrow.
That would be the sensible thing.
Yeah, and we'll just
Because the
start
only
again
people who are
tomorrow.
going to do any good is the first 40 cars. First 40 cars.
The second safari stage of the day was believed by many to be the most dangerous. Cowan and Dunkerton scorched over the horror stretch in just 1.5 hours. But the front runners had the advantage of daylight. For at least half the field, the long fuel delays meant tackling the course in the dark. Dust hanging in the still night air forced the drivers to stop and wait. Driving on blind would be suicide. For a Sydney team, the section had ended their safari. Despite heavy reinforcing, the front axle housing on their Toyota Land Cruiser just snapped in two. The overnight stop of Middleton was a welcome sight. Just a tiny pub surrounded by scorched earth and patches of daisy burr. For race leader Cowan and navigator Fred Gacentis, Middleton turned on the first-class treatment. For Dunkerton and the local challenge, it was time to resort to a few homegrown methods of pegging back the leaders.
You know, the nearer we get to Darwin, the more enjoyable it becomes, but I'm enjoying it as an event. The road book is excellent. The stages that we've used are absolutely first class. As I said, very demanding, very difficult, but the people who drive using their head, you know, I think will get to Darwin. They are rough, but if you go too quickly, you'll damage your car.